Randy Kennedy from AL.com. And Mr. Kennedy, thanks for being with us this afternoon. Tell us a little bit about what you do for AL.com.
I am a longtime sports writer, sports editor. Covered a lot of Alabama and Auburn as well as other sports. This coming up week in Mobile, home base where the Senior Bowl is taking place. So a lot of good stuff happening here this week.
Right. Well, I read your article on AL.com. Talk about the Hatton. We always try to have our buddy from the Auburn Plainsman on here, Will Gaines. But talk about the two seasons ending for Auburn, Alabama. Auburn lost the national title, and then Alabama losing the Sugar Bowl this year.
Well, for Alabama, it's really kind of a change of the program. I mean, I think Alabama's kind of been the hunted ever since 2009 in college football. They've been the team that everybody's kind of been chasing and measuring themselves against. And then you end up this year where Alabama's number one all year, go into the Iron Bowl, they lose to Auburn, and then lose again to Oklahoma. So you see some shake-up in Alabama with the personnel as well as the coaching staff, bringing in Lane Kiffin as offensive coordinator and just generally kind of shaking things up. At Auburn, really way ahead of schedule with Gus Malzahn. I mean, this is, Malzahn's at Auburn for 15 years. This team this year will probably be the least talented team he coaches. Had a whole bunch of holes to fill. Brought in a junior college quarterback who wasn't even there in the spring. Nick Marshall really got the most he possibly could out of this team. And I just think they're going to be more talented and probably better in the future.
Well, Mr. Kennedy, once again, we're talking from AL.com. Talk about A.J. McCarron turning the Senior Bowl down. Did that surprise you? Thought it was a little interesting that he did that.
Yeah, on one hand, it's surprising because he is a Mobile guy. He is, he admits himself that he has been to every Senior Bowl since he was 4 years old. And just kind of ironic that the first one he's going to miss is the one that he was eligible to play in. So from that standpoint, it's really shocking. But, when you get to this point, and he told me this, it's all about business decision when you get to this point. And if he's got advisors telling him that he's going to go somewhere between number 10 and number 36 in the draft, which is what he told me, then you listen to your advisor, or you listen to your agent, and you take that advice and make the best business decision you can. But it's certainly, not a good deal for the Senior Bowl, and I'm sure AJ would want to be playing in the game.
You got a controversial hire, to say the least, down there. Lane Kiffin coming into Alabama under Nick Saban, who I think most people can agree is the best coach in the nation. What can you say about the Kiffin hire? What led up to this? I know he was there helping the offense out before the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, I think the thing is that, and it's a tough spot for Alabama fans because, for a few years now, it's been, the two favorite pastimes for a lot of Alabama fans is cheer for the Crimson Tide and try to watch every chance you get when Lane Kiffin's playing and hope he loses and flames out terribly. So now you've really got to put those two things together and say, okay, for Alabama to succeed, Lane Kiffin has to succeed. And that's a tough pill to swallow for some people. But, from the Nick Saban point of view, he doesn't hear any of that. He doesn't think about any of that. He just knows that here's a guy that he respects as far as his X's and O's goes, thinks he can develop Alabama's next quarterback, and so that's the hire he's going to make. A lot of the problem that Kiffin has encountered has been his PR stuff, talking to the media, what have you. That's certainly not going to be a problem in Alabama because he's not going to be doing any of that.
Well, we'll talk. That's going to be an interesting Alabama-Tennessee game next year, isn't it?
It should be. I mean, not many of them have been interesting lately. The last one that was any good at all was when Kiffin was there, and Alabama Terrence Cody had to block a field goal in the last play to preserve a season that went on to be a national championship. They haven't been real competitive lately with Tennessee being a little down.
And before we transition over to Auburn, didn't they make one more change on maybe the defensive line or something happened there? Are they still looking for a coach or coordinator right there?
No, they have made a change on the defensive line. Bo Davis has come back. He was at Texas, took a job at USC for about a week, and then Nick Saban lured him back to Tuscaloosa to be the defensive line coach. And I think that's probably not the last change they'll make. I think Greg Davis, who's the secondary coach, they'll announce that he is stepping down probably the week of signing day. And I think Kevin Steele, who you guys up there may be familiar with, still remember, is going to go from a off-the-field position probably to back on the field as a defensive coach.
Right, and obviously Alabama's going to reload in recruiting. They do every year. So I mean, it was a disappointing season. I mean, I don't think any other fan base still going 11 or 12-2. But the way they lost in the Sugar Bowl, I guess. But you got to give credit to Oklahoma a little bit. They, Stoops has made comments in the offseason about the SEC, and he was able to back him up.
Yeah, and you wonder if Alabama and Oklahoma were playing for the national championship, if they were played out the same way. But Alabama, it is a disappointing year, even though, for whatever it was, 13 weeks of the year, they were number one for 11 of those weeks, but they certainly weren't at the end, and that's what matters.
Right, and looking way ahead to them, are they? I guess they'll have to replace the quarterback, but the running back they had in the Sugar Bowl, I forgot his name now, but he was a stud.
Yeah, Derrick Henry, and they'll be, everybody comes back at running back, just about everybody comes back at receiver. They'll be better on the offensive line, but none of that will matter if they don't find a quarterback. That's where the spring emphasis will be on offense. If they find a quarterback, they'll be one of the best offenses in the country. If they don't, they'll be very mediocre. That's the big question of the spring.
We're talking to Randy Kennedy of AL.com. Mr. Kennedy, what do you think about Auburn going forward? They surprised everybody this year. I don't think there was a single person in the nation that expected them to be in the national title game. Losing Trey Mason, the Heisman finalist, but Nick Marshall returning. What's the outlook? What's the expectations for the Tigers this year?
I think it's really good. I think Gus Malzahn is a terrific coach. If you look at that Auburn team, the team he inherited was not a good team. They basically quit in just about every game last year. The Clemson game being the exception. That was the high water mark for them for the whole season. The rest of the year was just a complete catastrophe. When they played A&M and they played Georgia and they played Alabama, the game was over literally before the first quarter was over. So he inherited not a great team, and yet every week they got better. Every single week. If you watched them to open the year when they played Washington State and then Mississippi State, they weren't any better than either one of those teams. And they got really fortunate to squeak out wins against both teams, Washington State and Mississippi State, both at home. And then they just get better and better and better as the year goes along. Then I thought they played their best game down the stretch. I thought Georgia was their best game. Then the next week I thought Alabama was their best game. And then I thought Missouri was their best game after that. And really, I think the Florida State game was probably their best game of the year. They just got better every single week. And I think they'll be more talented next year. Now, will everything come together with the chemistry and, kids accepting coaching and all that? You never know until you get into a season. But they're going to keep their coaching staff intact, and their roster will be much deeper and much more talented than it was this year.
Right, and some of the coaches they brought in, before the year, I think made a huge difference. Rodney Garner coming from Georgia, Damian Craig. But, the FSU, it was obviously disappointing for Auburn fans, but, they still won an SEC title and people probably picked them to finish last. So it was pretty remarkable what they did. But they had the game. Seemed to me, they had all the momentum, just kind of that fake punt, and just a couple things happened, and FSU was able to pull out with a win.
Yeah, and again, you look at the roster. If we look 10 years from now and we see how many of these guys, if you watch a replay of that game 10 years from now, you're still going to know a lot of those names for the guys you saw in Florida State. A whole bunch of those guys are about to go on to be very rich NFL players to play for a long time. And there's not, two or three guys on that Auburn roster you're going to recognize. This was not a great roster. They've recruited pretty well lately, and I think they'll recruit well this year. But that's not a put down. That's a reason for optimism at Auburn, because I think their roster is going to get better and deeper. But that Florida State team, it was just a matter of one team being deeper and stronger than the other, and eventually, Florida State barely able to pull that out. Although Auburn, like I said, played their best game of the year.
You talk about the state of Alabama as a whole, probably the best state in terms of football teams in the nation. Let's get a quick prediction from you for the next year, maybe wins and losses for both the teams, and what bowls they're going to go to, just how the season's going to turn out for both of them.
That's really interesting. I think that at Alabama, they're looking at, like I said, the quarterback position is all the key. And the kid Jacob Coker from here in Mobile, who played at Florida State this year, a lot of talk about he's going to transfer to Alabama because he would graduate would be eligible right away. If that's the case, and if he's as good as advertised, I think Alabama is right in the hunt again for a national championship. I think maybe you're looking at a 1 or 2 loss season for Alabama, maybe, but I think they're certainly one of the top 5 teams in terms of most likely to see in that playoff for the first year this year. For Auburn, I think they'll be more talented. They won a whole bunch of close games this year in the last second. I think they'll be better. Will they have a better record than they did this year? That's going to be difficult to do. But I think Auburn will be better. Their roster will be deeper. And again, I think that anything less than double-digit wins will be a disappointment. I think that's where the bar has been raised so quickly under Gus Malzahn.
Well, Mr. Kennedy, we appreciate the time. Once again, that's Randy Kennedy from AL.com, and we'll definitely have you back on in the future to give us an update from the great state of Alabama and enjoy those, I guess, all the Senior Bowl activities going on in Mobile.
We will do it. Nice to be with you.
All right, thank you. That's Randy Kennedy from AL.com.